Milwaukee Bucks played in Milwaukee in Game 5 in a do-or-die situation without Damian Lillard, without Giannis Antetokounmpo, and they played their absolute rear ends off. A 115-92 win over the Indiana Pacers to keep their playoffs alive. And hints during the telecast, Giannis Antetokounmpo could be coming back at some point. Damian Lillard could be coming back at some point. Frank Madden not coming back. He's here with us right now from Locked On Bucks. And Frank, a gutty performance. I don't know other words, I guess, but gutty is the one that comes to mind here. How did the Bucks get this done, especially defensively?
Yeah, I mean they've been playing gutty basketball kind of all series. I think with the exception of the defensive rebounding in the last quarter and OT of Game 3 when they just could not get defensive stops, or they could get defensive stops, they couldn't end possessions. Um, if you're a Bucks fan, you really can't complain about the effort and just the never say die attitude that they've shown, led by Chris Middleton in particular, who has been the rock throughout this
Yeah.
series. Obviously, Dame Lillard, a huge first couple of games, but then, it was Chris that had the tremendous Game 3, and he's been the guy that has just been the steady hand, on the wheel here over these past few games, and for him to come out again tonight, 10 quick points. The Pacers get out to an early lead. They started hitting a bunch of threes again. You kind of said, like, man, can they really maintain this level of 3-point shooting? I think they were like 7 of 12 from three early on. But in this game, it actually, like, mean reversion actually did kick in, and this is probably like the one game that we've seen this series where both teams just sort of shot like okay, like neither team shot the lights out or had like a massive advantage from 3-point range. And so, how do the Bucks win by 20 plus points? I mean, I think you obviously start with Chris Middleton, you start with Bobby Portis. I think the patience and those are two very deliberate half court scorers, and they were doing a lot of that in this game. And I thought again, it was really in the early second quarter. We saw this in Game 1, early second quarter, with Bobby Portis as the only big and Chris out there. That was when the tide was flipped in Game 1, and it was the same story here. They turn a 31-23 deficit into not a big halftime lead, but really steady things. And Bobby, Chris Middleton, Pat Beverly also, who
Yeah.
I think just was a massive spark plug tonight, in that first half. Scored 12 points in the second quarter, and he just sort of like looked at the Pacers guards and just said, I'm just going to burrow my way to the basket, and hit a couple of two smalls while he was at it. So I think a lot of it was just sort of like controlling tempo, and just it's so important for the Bucks to score and not have droughts, because when they have droughts, that is when the Pacers feast. That's when they can get out in transition, and we've seen it all year between these two teams. When the Pacers are able to push the ball and play their style, that is when the Bucks are in deep, deep trouble. And tonight, the Bucks, I think, did a really nice job just controlling the tempo a bit. They didn't have huge issues on the glass the way that they did, in Game 3, and they actually had a really good night on the offensive glass themselves. So again, just controlling pace, making some shots, and having at least a little bit of an advantage. I think from a jump shooting perspective, is they can't win without that. And then again, Bobby Portis didn't get ejected, scored a bunch of points, and Chris Middleton did Chris Middleton stuff. So the crowd, I think, was pretty electric there, especially in the second half. And even Malik Beasley, who has had a very forgettable series thus far, coming in with doubling down on some of his comments in the regular season about not being afraid of the Indiana Pacers. He had a huge second half, and Bucks even getting out in transition in that fourth quarter. You knew things were really going the Bucks' way when they were the ones forcing turnovers and getting out runs and dunks in transition. So I think I do not expect the same sort of effort or tempo on Thursday in Game 6. But again, Bucks sort of had Mission Impossible, at the start of the day. Now they have maybe mission slightly less impossible, but certainly, pending the health of their two superstars, still a very, very much an uphill battle here.
Yeah, in the second and third quarters in this one, the Bucks outscored the Pacers 64-36 combined, holding the Pacers under 20 in each quarter and scoring over 30 in each quarter. That's how you stretch out a lead, and that is how you keep your season alive. Frank, thanks. Stay up to date on the Milwaukee Bucks all year by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Bucks on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube.